everyone, welcome back to my channel, sharoncullenart. Today is the first day of Tiny Tuesday tutorials. I thought I'd have a video all ready to go, get it put up Monday night so that you'd have it Tuesday morning, but that didn't happen, so I'm sorry for it coming late in the day today. I had a horrible pain day yesterday. I couldn't even move. I really could not get up. So I had posted on Instagram something from Procreate that I had sketched, and that was all I did. I had not picked up a brush all day. And I had guests over the weekend. Things got away from me. But today I'm going to whip up a quick little tiny painting for you. I believe we're going to do a landscape today. Should be pretty simple and straightforward. Very little sketching at all involved. And I'm going to do a river with rocks and some trees. So we'll do that in just a minute. But there was something else I wanted to address. And it doesn't have much to do with you viewers. It really has to do with a scammer that is, well, a ghost who is fishing on my channel and is claiming to be me. And I want to tell any company out there who may pick this video up or look at my channel due to hashtags or whatever it may be, that I am not currently seeking out any products. I don't usually seek out products. Usually companies come to me. Occasionally I will contact them if I'm interested in doing a review on something that they have, and we'll usually work something out. But somebody has been claiming to be me, and the first person that was contacted in the first company knew me, and we had been corresponding there, and she also follows me on Instagram, and she contacted me and said, "Hey Sharon, have you been asking for paints?" Also, somebody else's channel was asking for paints apparently at the same time, both going to the same town. She knew where I lived, she knew where he lived. We live nowhere near each other. I'm in Michigan, he's in South Carolina and North Carolina. So she picked up on it and luckily did not send any of her expensive watercolors out to these people. The second company who contacted me was a paper company distributor who distributes papers for Hahnemuhle, B, and other papers, I guess. So he contacted me and said that he had been duped and had sent out some paper to supposedly me in another state. And then another person contacted him and said, oh, she went to college with Sharon, and that she talked about how great the papers were, and she wanted some too, so he sent some to her. And then two more people wanted to, from blogs, wanted to get paper, and they were all going to the same vicinity. And he finally caught on. Why they would do that four times for the same vicinity is beyond me, but whatever. So for you scammer out there, my name is my copyright, and you are not to use my name or any of my videos for purposes of making money or receiving products. It is against the law. It has been reported to YouTube, and people are on it. Secondly, for the companies that might be scammed by somebody using my name, I want you to know I live in Michigan, and all of my packages come to my home address. I do not use a P.O. box, and you would not be sending them to a P.O. box. So just so you are aware, I am not currently contacting anyone as of August 11th, 2020. I have not contacted anyone for any products. So I apologize to any of you companies who have been duped by this scammer. This person is just making money hand over fist and receiving products, which I think is such a shame. And it will come back to bite him in the end. So anyway, let's move on with the video. I just wanted to throw that out there, and I'm going to have to be leaving it in my description on all of my videos so that this ghoster, whoops, I'm sorry, I bumped my camera. This ghoster knows that I am onto him. So get out of here. Let's get on with the video. Okay, Now for this painting, I will be using 4 colors primarily. I'm going to use burnt sienna. I will be using Hansa Yellow Light, which is a bit dirty, but that's okay. I'll clean it out. I'm going to be using my ultramarine blue and neutral tint all by Daniel Smith. If you don't have neutral tint, you have Payne's Gray, that'll work, I suppose. It should work. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab a pencil and I'm going to be putting in my river. And you don't ever want to split a composition in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my river below the halfway point, about right here. It's going to start and it'll flow to this edge. Actually, I want it to come out a little bit further to the edge. This way. And then this edge is going to come way out over here. It's going to be a tree line, so I want to keep this area for dirt around the river's edge. Dirt and rocks. Now I'm going to draw in some rocks. You normally don't have to, but I want to have some rocks in the water. Try not to make your rocks look all the same if you can help it. Put this one right on the edge here. And I'm going to have rocks over here, a rock over here. And they're going to get smaller as they recede into the distance, like that. I'm going to also put some up on the land. I used Scotch tape on my table to adhere my paper down because my artist tape does not stick once I get my paper wet. If I do wet into wet at all, then I've got a problem. Okay, so I've got a few rocks there, and that's all I'm going to put in. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to wet the paper. I'm going to keep an area up here, try to keep it dry, a little circle for the sun. And if you don't, that's okay, because we'll just go around it. Brush and clean it out. I'm just using, right now, I'm using a number 10 Blick Sable brush. And in that wet area now, I'm going to re-wet that a little bit. It may have gotten a little too dry. Okay, and then I'm going to take my lemon yellow and I'm just going to go around my white circled area for the sun. And it does not have to be perfectly round. I'm going to take it way out to the edges. And way down here. Just like that. I'm going to mix a very deep green. And I'm just going to kind of flop this in here and there. And then I'm going to get a bit of my neutral tint and cover that green up in my palette, and I'm adding more blue to it. Whoops, it got into my yellow. I want to make this nice and dark. And I'm going to go down at the bottom here, making this real dark along this edge. And then we're just going to let that dry. Taking some of my yellow, it's gotten mixed in with my neutral tint and my blue, but it's a brighter green, and that's the next color I wanted to do here. And now let's just go ahead and let that dry. In the meantime, I'm going to take some more of that yellow, and I'm going to mix in with it my burnt sienna. Starting with just a little bit, and I think that should be perfect. It might be a little bit dark. I use a scrap paper here just to check my colors when I'm mixing them. Yeah, I want it a little bit lighter, more of a sand color like a yellow ochre. You can use yellow ochre if you have it, but learning to mix colors is a good starting point if you're a beginner. So, okay, and I'm going to water that down. I want it nice and wet, diluted. Then I'm just going to go over all of this, including the rocks. Just go over all of it. Try not to touch the blue. Whoops, I got into my blue. Oh, well. I'll fix that. I'm just going to take a little bit of my paper towel and just sop up that edge to keep it from bleeding in, and then I'll go over it again. There we go. I can always fix the blue later, which I plan. We're going to be putting more color over that because, as you know, watercolor does dry lighter. So, okay, and then I also want to add a little bit of this here and there. And then we're all set. You could put a little bit on your rocks if you want. We're going to be adding other colors to them, but that'll give you a good starting point. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let this dry. And I am just using bee paper from the paper that I had cut up. Okay, now that that's dry, you can see the granulation effects from the ultramarine blue that is in this color here. Now we're going to go over this again, and what I want to do is keep some of this light green that I had from stuff dripping in. And actually I should switch to a smaller brush to make it easier. Here's a number 4 from Silver Black Velvet. You could use that as well. I'll use that. And I'm just going to be putting in some branches here. Some leaves just drooping down. And I'm just tapping my brush lightly. And I'm putting some of the branches across into my sunshine, because we know that normally when you're looking through a forest of trees, you don't see the entire sun. Well, we can't really look at it though now, can we? I'm going to add a little bit of my blue to what I had there in that green. But now I'm making it a bit darker. Not a lot at this point, because I'm going back into this lighter area here and here. So we're going to just bring these branches back, and they can go into the blue area. That's not a problem. I need to take some of that dark color down here, put that in. This is going to be a little less, it'll be more filled in is what, oh shoot, I just splashed. Well, we got a couple dark leaves up there, mixing in with my yellow. I can cover this spot up too that was here. Another color that we'll be using some white gouache. If you don't have white gouache, you're going to want to reserve some whites for your water, and make sure that you leave some of the sandy area this color. I'll probably use a little bit of white in that area, but if you don't have white gouache, you don't have to have that. Now I've changed my blue over to a more of a green look again. Darker than the last one. It's still a little bit diluted, so the values aren't too stark. Now I'm adding a little more neutral tint into that deep blue that I had made previously. And I'm making this really super dark. Okay. And I made it a little more concentrated in value so that it's easier to see these branches. You don't need to cover up everything that's underneath because those could be distant trees catching the sunlight. This one, though, I want to be more close up. There we go. Make sure you leave some of that yellow showing. Since the sun is shining here, it's coming through the center of our painting. So it's going to be a little brighter in some areas, like right in here, and maybe a little bit on the sand, but not a whole lot, just a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of my burnt sienna and mix it in with my ultramarine blue to make a brown gray to go over these. And you can leave some of that white showing or that beige showing, except you want to go around it because it'll blend in with the dirt on the ground as well. So, and I'm going to add a little more of my ultramarine blue into that brown gray to make it more of a Payne's gray. And I like my Payne's gray to be on the bluer side, which is just a preference. Now I want to take some of my burnt sienna. I'm going to mix it in with that ochre color that I mixed. So it's a little bit lighter than burnt sienna. And I want to get up toward these edges, but I don't want to draw that blue in yet. So I'm going to be very careful not to pull that wet color back in like I did earlier. But this is an area where the sun is not shining. So the dirt's going to be a little bit darker. And let me zoom out just a bit to make sure you're getting the whole thing. In front of the rocks, it would be darker, where it would cast shadow. And along the water's edge, where it's going down the bank. Definitely here. There we go. We'll just do like that. I may draw a little of that back into the other areas so it's not such a straight line. Now I'm going to let all this dry. Okay, now that that's dry, I'm going to mix myself the color that I want for the water. Now you could use phthalo blue if you have it. I'm not going to use phthalo blue. I'm just going to use my lemon yellow and my ultramarine. And then I will use just a touch of my neutral tint to darken that into more turquoise color. Let me get a little more blue here. There we go. I think that's what I want. Okay, let me test it here. Yep, that's the color I want. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm sorry, my head bumped the camera. I'm going to come back here and start my water, go around this rock, and in front of the rocks, I'm going to try to leave it white. There's going to be some rapids from the water coming around it. Down here, I'm going to go all the way across over that yellow ochre mixture that we kind of made with the burnt sienna and the yellow. On the back side of the rocks, the water usually rushes up to it. You'll see more of the rapids over the front. So I can add more of that with the gouache too later. I'm going to take some of that mixture that I had, and I want to make this a little bit greener in spots. This river is not totally blue. So there. That's pretty much all I wanted to do there. Now, we're going to go ahead and pull out our white gouache, and we're going to make the tree trunks. But since this is so dark, I want to make sure the tree trunks show. Now, you could have maybe scratched them in. Some people use a card to scratch color in, etc. But I'm just going to use white gouache, make it nice and easy. And you have to do the scratching at a certain point. It can't be too wet or it makes the lines darker. Can't be too dry or it doesn't do anything at all. You got to be right on that in between. So there, I've got a little tinge of white gouache out, and now I'm going to use a little bit of my neutral tint, and I'm going to mix myself a gray. I want to add some of my burnt sienna into it. You can use your number 2 brush if you have it, or if you have a rigger, whatever you like to make branches with, that's fine. I'm going to grab a rigger. I'm just used to using those. This has always been one of my favorite go-tos. Just a cheap Da Vinci Cosmotop spin. It's a triple aught, 3 zeros. I'm just going to draw up my tree trunks, but I'm not going to go right from the bottom on all of these. On this one, I'm going almost to the bottom. Then I'm bringing my tree trunk up. This one's going to be closest to me, so it's going to be wider than the others. And then I'm going to skip an area, and then I'm just going to bring it up again. Skipping an area, bringing it up again, and I'm going to start to branch off. Then I'm going to do it again with another one. This one's going to be back a little bit further. Now this doesn't look like it's showing real well. I'm going to add a little more white to this mixture. The nice thing about a rigger is that you can just pull it every which way and have fun with it. And as long as you're not pressing too hard, you get some really cool branches that are not always straight. I'm going to do this on both sides. Now I'm going to go back with my gouache again and mixing a very light gray. I'm just going to go over some areas on the rocks that I want the glare from the sun to catch. Just jagged lines wherever the high spots on the rocks are that would catch the sun. I'm going to use my rigger and I'm going to make more rapids on the water. I'm going to curve away from the rocks. Then I'm going to take that white, and on top of the gray areas, I'm just going to put a little white streak here. Am I in the right spot? Yeah, you can see me, can't you? Okay. I'm just going to dab between some of these branches. Just dabbing dots in between so that these branches look a little more realistic. And now the last thing I want to do is take a little of my blue with some of my burnt sienna, making a gray. And I want to shadow a little bit more. I need it to be very thin though. I don't want it to cover up the color underneath so much. But I want this to be more shadowed. So it's obvious what's happening there. And then we can have some branches that are showing as shadows. Okay, that's pretty much it, you guys. So let's take the tape off, see what we got. So remember everyone, be courageous, paint with wild abandon, but most of all, be kind to each other. See you next Tuesday for Tiny Tuesday tutorials. Bye for now. God bless.